Hello everyone and welcome back. I do hope you're all well. Now, there's been some big Brentford news of late, and that is of course that David Raya, our number one, is going to be leaving to Arsenal, not in the £30 million deal that we necessarily expected, but on a season-long loan deal where we get £3 million with the £27 million option to buy. Now, he has signed a one-year contract extension just to add to his value if the loan move to Arsenal doesn't quite work out, but I think it's not a bad deal for us. You know, we expected him to leave. We signed Flecken early in the summer, and it's probably taken a lot longer than most of us would have expected, but it looks like that deal is finally done. Now, I don't usually do videos like this on the channel. It's normally just the matchday ones, but I thought now's a decent time, given the Premier League season kicks off for Brentford in just a couple of days' time when we face Tottenham Hotspur at the G-Tech. So it's a tough way to start. The finishing touches have been made to the G-Tech. They put up the big banner behind the West Stand and the photos of the players in the new kits along the main entrance, and actually a lot more effort than you might think goes into some of this stuff. Now, I think the first thing to say is that I think this season is going to be far more difficult for Brentford in the Premier League than our previous two. We're going to be without our main man, the 20 goal scorer last season, Ivan Toney, third top scorer in the league, and to be fair, towards the end of last season, Johan Visser and Brian Mbeumo in particular really did step up. I think he's going to be a far bigger loss than we all think. You know, he does so much for the team, not just with his goals, but with his hold-up play, winning fouls, even defensively from our set pieces. Of course, we lost our captain, Pontus Jansson, over the summer too. Christian Norgaard's going to take the armband for the season, which seems like a very sensible choice. Having said that, I think the summer transfer window has actually been pretty good for Brentford. We've kept the majority of our key players, and we made a few big signings in key positions for Brentford to replace the outgoings. I think the first of which is Mark Flecken. We confirmed the signing of Kevin Schade for a record-breaking £20 million for Brentford. Obviously, we had him on loan for the second half of last season, and he showed in glimpses what he's really about. Looked a really exciting player. Obviously, you know he's got pace, but I think this season it will be about finding that end product for him. And then we broke our transfer record again with Nathan Collins from Wolves, £23 million to fill the void left by Pontus Jansson. I think all of our major signings this summer do look exciting, and recruitment has been absolutely key for Brentford over the past few seasons, you know, buying players and selling them for profit. I think it's something of a fresh start this season for players like Mikkel Damsgaard and Keane Lewis-Potter, who we signed for big money for Brentford standards at the start of last season, and they were hampered by injury, it has to be said, and didn't get as much game time as they would have wanted. Lewis-Potter in particular has looked really sharp in pre-season, so I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. On the topic of pre-season, the results haven't quite been as good as we might have hoped, but I never like to read too much into pre-season. I think the performances and the processes involved are far more important, and we have been playing quite well. Obviously, we kicked things off with a 1-1 draw away to Boreham Wood. We then headed off to America for the Premier League Summer Series, and from an attacking point of view, we scored lots of goals. We looked a bit shaky at the back, it has to be said, so that's why I think the clean sheet against Lille on Saturday at the G-Tech was really important for that defensive unit. Now, having solid foundations and being strong defensively is going to be absolutely key this year for Brentford if we want to pick up results, especially considering goals are not going to be flowing as freely without Toney. Thomas Frank is very flexible with his formation. If you think back to the last 10 games of last season, in half of them he played a back three or a back five, and in half of them he played a back four, and certainly against the top six sides he always favoured that back five. But I think deep down Thomas Frank wants to play a four a lot more often this season. I think in pre-season he's played a four in pretty much every game. I might be wrong there. So whilst Tottenham are one of the top sides in the division, I think on Sunday he'll go with a back four from the start. So here's my predicted team. Now, I've said he's very flexible in formation. He's also quite flexible in the players he picks. We only sort of have 7 or 8 nailed on starters. There's a few question marks in there. I've put Norgaard in there, but he's only played 60 minutes in pre-season. If he was fit enough to get minutes in that, he's probably going to start Sunday, let's be honest. That third centre-mid position is a really difficult one because Brentford do have quite a few options there now. If you think we've got De Silva, Janel, Onyeka, Baptiste and Damsgaard, so there's a lot of competition for places in there, which can only be a good thing. Baptiste has looked really good in pre-season, to be fair, but I reckon he'll go for Janel on Sunday. It's hard to tell. The other question mark is in those forward positions. I think if Mbeumo and Visser are fit, they're going to play most games, certainly in the first half of this season. That left wing position, there's a bit more debate between Schade and Lewis Potter. I think he's going to go Lewis Potter just because of how sharp he's looked in pre-season. Looks really, really good, and I'm excited to see what he has to offer this season. I think Thomas Frank will favour a back five system in far fewer games this season, but I've had a go at predicting it anyway, so here it is. I put Collins in there in a back three. Right back, Roslev or Hickey. I think we're lucky at Brentford, we have two top right backs who are both young, both full of energy, both really solid defensively. So I think you can make strong claims for both. I think Hickey is the first choice at the moment, and if we're playing a two up top, I've put Mbeumo in there alongside Schade just because of his pace in behind. In terms of ones to watch for the season, I think it's a big year for Aaron Hickey. He was superb defensively last season, absolutely brilliant, but it's a bit of a weird one because I kind of thought we signed him due to his attacking threat, if you know what I mean, sort of marauding forward and crossing into the box. We didn't see too much of that last season. My second one is Josh Da Silva. I think all Brentford fans love him, and I really do believe he has the potential to perhaps be the most valuable player in our team. I mean, he's a goal scoring midfielder that doesn't play as a 10, he's more of an 8, and that is such a valuable asset to us. He's a moment's player, you know, he can pop up with a big goal when you need it. Obviously we know his trademark goal that he did in pre-season against Aston Villa. The final one, and arguably the player I'm most excited about, is Keane Lewis Potter. Obviously last season he had an injury just when it looked like he was going to get going, but he's looked so sharp in pre-season, and that's why I think he'll start on Sunday. Now, of course, Brentford losing David Raya is going to be a huge loss. On that first season we were back in the Premier League, he was my player of the year, and last season he was in many pundits' teams of the seasons. So I've put together a little comparison between David Raya and Mark Fleckham. Now, what you'll see with the stats on screen is that they're actually very, very similar. Fleckham had the most clean sheets in the Bundesliga last season, and that's a league with quite a few top keepers. Raya was about 4th. Save percentage and pass completion percentage are also both very similar. Long pass percentage is quite an interesting one, particularly for Brentford, who aren't afraid to play direct. Now, Raya made the second most passes of any player in the Brentford team last season, just behind Ben Mee. So it's clear to see how important it is that we have a keeper that's comfortable with the ball at his feet. So out of all attempted passes, 58% of Fleckham's and 63% of Raya's were long balls, which is a huge percentage when you think about it. As for long pass completion, and that is passes over 30 yards, Fleckham actually edges it 52% to 45%. For me, I'll take staying in the league, but I think a realistic aim for the club is probably around lower mid-table. But the attitudes of Thomas Frank, Phil Giles and Matthew Benham and all the staff has always been to not just survive but thrive as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how we do this season. I'd like to think that come December, January, if we are 17th, 18th in the league, not getting the results we might want, but the performances are right, the process is right, and we're perhaps getting a bit unlucky. I'd like to think Thomas Frank has the complete backing of all the fans in particular, because he's done absolute wonders for us. Maybe I'm being a bit too pessimistic. There's no reason why Brentford can't go and have another great season, and I have full faith it's going to be another great season for Brentford, and I'm super excited to kick off here on Sunday against Tottenham. That's a superb game, so hopefully it's a really good atmosphere and lots of us come down. But yeah, until then everyone, have a good one.